Rap Nerd.
In the club, I'm busy scouting like a car dealer. I want a pretty foreign, not an 18-wheeler. Cold when I'm spitting in the booth, it's a freezer. Can't respect the brother that listens on Deezer. Round the world, I wanna be Roman, Julius Caesar.
What's going on? What's good? It's your boy D-Sick, aka the Rap Nerd, and today I have an artist from the UK that's over there killing it, doing everything independently, doing everything on his own. It's a pleasure to interview Hammy, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm good. How are you? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to have you on here, man. We love reaching out all over the world because there's definitely good hip hop everywhere. And I checked out your new single, Imminent. It's great, man. First, before we start this interview, I just want to tell you it's great, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on as well. That's I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So just starting with the first single, tell everybody about this first single and what it's about.
Okay, so Imminent is about a situation I was in maybe a year or two ago, where it seemed to be frequent that women who were in relationships seemed to just come towards me. I don't know what that was about. It just seemed to be this sort of maybe 3-4 month period where women who were in relationships seemed to just keep coming my way. They would hit my DMs, they would see me on Nights Out, things like that. And it wasn't anything I was doing in particular. I hadn't changed anything. They just decided that that was what they wanted to do at that moment. So it was just kind of a song about the feeling of that at the time. And obviously it felt good, like who doesn't like attention, all that kind of business. But yeah, it was just me expressing how that felt. And also, to be honest, this was like my fifth release maybe,
Yeah.
and that's my fifth release ever, and it was more about sort of showcasing my lyrical ability and how far my flow has come on from when I started. Because I mean, if you go back to my first single I ever dropped, it was called Kickoff,
Yeah.
and the production on that is awful. It's fucking terrible. And the lyrics weren't great, the flow wasn't great, the beat wasn't even that great either. And so that was just me messing around. So to have that as like a starting point and then to come to like now and see where it's come to feels really good.
Okay. Well, take us back for a second, man. Tell us about like how you grew up and what were your musical influences and what made you decide to get into music.
Okay, so I mean, where I grew up is around Bristol. Shout out if anybody knows where that is. It's in the UK, just on the west, southwest that is. And yeah, I grew up in and around Bristol. I never really had an interest in music as a kid, interestingly enough. Like it was very much just I listened to radio and just played whatever I wanted on Spotify, that kind of thing. I only really wanted to get into music sort of towards the end of last year,
Mhm.
and I didn't really know where to start, and I didn't know whether I'd be any good, anything like that. So I decided to just start writing lyrics in my notes.
Mhm.
And once I got a few sort of built up over a certain period of time, maybe like 2 or 3 week period, I decided to show them to somebody and see whether they liked it, whether they thought it was good, all this kind of business. Obviously, I was only just starting out, so looking back on them now, they're not that great, but they do still help me in my raps today. And when I showed the first person I showed was my little brother.
Mhm.
He's just turned 19. And he was saying to me at the time, yeah, like it looks pretty good, but I didn't have the fundamentals there. Like there was nothing for me to go with it. Like nowhere for me to go with it. And so I decided to try and teach myself how to produce. And I didn't have any contacts in the industry, anything like that. So it was very much just a case of Googling and getting on YouTube.
What
And
software did you use to produce?
I use Ableton. I use Ableton.
Okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, it was very much sort of a case of learning the basics first, how to even work Ableton, and then from there sort of went into trying to create my own beats, which I'll be honest, the first beat took me a good month and a half, 2 months to make, just because I had no idea what I was doing, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so I once I made the first beat, I decided, well, I may as well write some lyrics for it now. I used a lot of the ones I'd already built up in my notes. But it was very much a case of the same thing, just going through my notes, adding to it. The song didn't even really make sense. It was very much just me experimenting.
Yeah.
And once I got that, I kind of got a taste for it and thought, yeah, well, I want to do this more often. So started making a few more beats, got quicker at that, and then writing lyrics was just immediately after. And I've just been doing that ever since. Really, I've put about one out a month, maybe. I put one single out a month, I think. I've not released any albums yet or anything like that, but that's coming soon, I think.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've been releasing projects with just one or two songs on them. And I was
Mm.
wondering, is that strategic? Or are you just trying to get a feel for what your sound is going to be? Or are you just
Yeah, so
testing the waters?
it's a bit of a mix, to be honest. Like that, it is strategic because I figured if I'm putting around one out a month, that way I can focus all my energy into one song rather than multiple. And I can make that song as good as I think it can be. Which, if you go back, like the songs, obviously they level up in quality, but at the time, that's the best I thought I could produce. And obviously, I'm just pushing my limits every time. But it's more of a case of that I want to make every single thing as best as I can before I put it out. So I want to focus everything on one rather than splitting it across multiple.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you're writing your lyrics, I wanted to ask you, like, is it coming from personal experiences or are you just kind of like uh fictional or a little bit of both? How's that?
So it's a mix of both. I'd say the majority of my songs are based fictionally. The last two though have been very personal experiences. The imminent one that I dropped yesterday, obviously explained the experience behind that, and
Mhm.
then the one I dropped before that, Winter 20, was about a relationship I was in the winter of 2020, hence the name. And that was essentially just a toxic relationship. So that was all my experiences through that and like the feelings that I went through that are then in the song. And I also included in that song two voice notes, and one of them is a quote that the girl who the song is about said to me, and the other is a girl who was trying to get me to cheat on the girl who I was in a relationship with.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I didn't, but
Good.
it was there, and I thought, you know what, I'll add that in there because it just sounded pretty good. So
Yeah, that's a pretty good, compelling story. I mean, I think it's very good that you come up with like actual storylines and everything for your music. And I wanted to ask you, do you record your vocals in Ableton or do you use another program for that?
no, so I've only ever learned how to record my vocals in Ableton, and obviously just coming into music, I've not really had the funds to go to a proper studio. There's a chain of studios in the UK called Pirate Studios, and
Yeah.
they're pretty much built for up and coming artists. But they have all the equipment there, all the recording equipment ready. So I go there to record my songs, but with it being such on a budget, it doesn't really come out the best quality. So I have to do a lot of editing on it afterwards.
Absolutely. I like to tell a lot of up and coming artists that there are plenty of ways that you can get your own studio equipment and record from home.
Yeah.
Just like how you from the ground up started producing and making your own beats, you can also from the ground up get the things that you need to record. So I would definitely advise to try that because it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. But the one thing I definitely want to salute you on is putting your music out there. That's very important because there's a lot of artists that don't even have the confidence to put their first songs out there. So you came right out the gate with some confidence, and that's great.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into like a home studio kind of set up at some point. It's just gonna be a case of finding the funds.
Absolutely, man. I like to tell people that if you can save up anywhere between Well, this is minus the laptop, of course.
Right.
Assuming that you already have the laptop, if you can save up anywhere between $500 and $1,000, you can get a very basic studio setup. And of course, the more you can invest, the better quality you could have.
Yeah.
But everything that you've done, it seems good. Are they hourly where they're charging you to record at? Is it hourly?
Yeah, yeah. So it's about £10 an hour
Mhm.
in Pirate Studios, but that's not a terrible rate, I don't think. Especially for me because I like to get all my lyrics down and memorized before I go there. So it like a studio session normally only takes me about 2 hours max.
Yes, that's very important because I also record artists. I have a home studio and it's very much a plus. Indie artists, if you're watching this, please come prepared to the studio. Us audio engineers appreciate it so much. And I just wanted to point that I had to highlight that, man. But it's another thing I wanted to ask you about. Who do you feel like your music is for? Like, is there a specific audience that you're trying to grab? That's the first part of the question. And
Yeah.
then the second part of the question is, do you want to stay in the UK or are you trying to be global?
So first part of the question, my music is probably for any rap enthusiast, sort of UK or American. I'm not bothered. I think a lot of my friends have told me that due to the fact I listen to a lot of American rap, a lot of my songs sound as though they would fit in with that, but obviously with the British accent. So it kind of has that contrast, which I quite like about it. But yeah, so it's mainly for any rap enthusiast. I just want to attract people who appreciate the art, appreciate the what's going on behind the scenes, all of that kind of business. And with the second part of the question, I want to go global. Like most of my fan base, ironically, at the minute is in Chicago. So my top city is Chicago. Then my second one is London, and
Hmm.
then third is Bristol. Um, and so I wanted to kind of expand out into America, into Australia. I'm actually moving to Australia later this year, so hopefully getting an audience over there will be really helpful.
Dope. Would you ever consider signing a major deal should it be offered to you if it was right, or do you want to stay the independent route? Because there are two very different paths. And I feel like coming up in the industry is kind of something that you want to think about. Have you given any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I have given a little bit of thought about it, and I've seen a lot of videos where other artists will say, don't sign a major deal unless it's perfect for you. Because a lot of the time it's more they'll offer you all this money and then they'll say, yeah, it's brilliant, we'll give you all of this, but you have to then reinvest it into your music so you don't actually get paid it. Which obviously is not an ideal lifestyle, but I would definitely consider it. I would just have to have it read over by some good lawyers.
Absolutely, because you definitely don't want to be thirsty for the first opportunity.
Yeah.
Nine times out of 10, the first big opportunity is not good. So, you definitely want to keep that in mind. And as you've been progressing and doing everything yourself thus far, is there any advice that you'd give to someone that wants to get started?
Stay persistent, to be honest, it's very much a long learning curve. Like from when I started writing my first lyrics in December last year.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't put out my first song until end of January. I don't think. Slow learning process, and I had to learn each individual aspect of it. There's obviously certain things online that can help you, like there's YouTube tutorial on whichever platform you're using to produce or to record or anything like that. So I would advise looking at those, but it's maybe staying persistent and not losing that sight of what you originally had in mind.
Got you. Okay. So, last question. What's next for Hammy? What you got next coming up? Or are we just focused on the single imminent right now?
So kind of right now I'm focusing on the promotion for Imminent, but in the future, in the very near future, I would imagine maximum 2 months. There should be another one coming out. I'm in the process of writing it now. So we've got another one on the way. It's in the pipeline. I just got my issue is, right, I'm going traveling next week for 2 months, and I wanna be writing whilst I'm away. So I'm taking all the equipment I need with me, just the essentials, but I'm taking everything I need with me. And I'm going to be writing whilst I'm away. It's just going to be a case of finding somewhere to record whilst I'm over there. So I can either do that or I could just wait until I'm back. But I hear where I'm going. So I'm going to Thailand and Indonesia. And I hear Thailand, Bangkok especially, has some good recording studios. So I may have a look into that.
Nice. Oh, and I also meant to ask you, you said you weren't really too much into music as a kid. What were you
Yeah.
into? Like, what were the things that interest you outside of music? Just even now and then.
Sports mainly. I was a sporty kid. I used to swim competitively, and I played rugby at a high level when I was like ages probably 10 to 16.
Mhm.
Um I was doing both of those sports at the same time. But now it's kind of transitioned into UFC. I don't play any of those or anything like that, but I love watching it. MMA, any of that kind of business is that's my type of stuff now.
Okay, all right. That's what's up, man. Let
Yeah.
everybody know where they can find you at, man.
Well, my Instagram is at joe.ham, joe.ham. My Twitter is Joe M Ham. And that's about it, really. Those are the only socials I got. No, actually, my TikTok. Hold on, let me just get on my TikTok quickly.
Yeah,
So I can,
gotta give out the TikTok, man. That's what's really
yeah,
going on, popping
yeah, yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. That's the other bit of advice. Get on TikTok, man. Any
For
upcoming
sure.
artists, get on TikTok.
Mhm.
So my TikTok is joe.ham54.
Okay. All right, man. Y'all go check out Hammy, man. Thanks for
Appreciate you having me
joining.
on, man.
Absolutely, man. We're out of here, man. Peace.
All right, peace, man.
24 hours of nonstop indie hip hop right here on Rap Nerd Radio. Welcome to Rap Nerd Radio. We're on our own frequency. Nobody does it better.